With Speaking Your Brand. This is your opportunity to go behind the scenes of what we do here at Speaking Your Brand as a business, and also to go behind the scenes of what it looks like to put yourself out there, speaking wise and visibility. Today, we're going to talk about VIP days. So we're going to dig in first to how we use VIP days here at Speaking Your Brand to help our clients create their signature talk. And then we'll also talk about how you could potentially use VIP days in your own businesses. They can be very powerful offers that get your clients quick wins and also give them a lot of momentum and clarity. So if you're here live, say hi to us in the comments. We can see your comments here. And if you're watching the replay, let us know that you're watching the replay, and we're going to be taking your questions along the way. So make sure to put them in the comments. I'm Carol Cox, founder and CEO of Speaking Your Brand. With me today is Diane Diaz, our lead speaking coach.
Hello, everybody. So happy to be here.
And our two fabulous guests are clients of ours who have done the VIP day process with us to create their signature talk. We have Casey Gromer and Erin Austin. Nice to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. Excited.
So Erin, let me start with you. Tell us a bit about what it is that you do in your business. And I also want to let everyone know that Erin was on the Speaking Your Brand podcast a few months ago, earlier this year, talking in more detail about what she does in her business. But give us an overview right now.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. So again, I'm Erin Austin. I am founder of Think Beyond IP. I am a business consultant and an intellectual property lawyer. And what I do is I help the female founders of B2B professional services firms build and protect the assets in their business so that the business is ready to sell when the founder is ready to exit. And so it's been a lot of fun to work with women to help them understand how to build value in their businesses. Sometimes when you're a service-based business, you think in terms of your time, but I want to help women think in terms of assets and using those assets to build wealth.
Incredible, Erin. That is so powerful. And Casey, tell us about your business and also about your podcast.
Oh, thank you, Carol. Hi, I'm Casey Gromer. I'm also a business consultant, and I'm a fractional integrator. And what I do is I work with women who are ready to kind of get out of the day-to-day of the running of their business. And so everything that we do really helps them with their strategy, their planning, their people, and their processes so that they can successfully do that and still pay themselves and make a profit. And thank you for the opportunity to share the podcast. I have a podcast called Female Founders Breaking Boundaries, and we talk about all the ways that running a business as a woman has a different set of expectations and challenges, and how we can walk you through that so you can be successful.
And I have to give a plug for Casey's podcast. It has become quickly one of my go-to favorite ones to listen to. And I love the format that Casey has. In the beginning of the episode, she'll lift up a fellow female founder. So this could be someone that she knows personally. It could be someone that she's seen in the news. And then she does the main content. And then at the end, she does her rants or her deep thoughts with Casey. And I really enjoy that. So you definitely check out her podcast, Female Founders Breaking Boundaries.
I'm blushing, Carol. Thank you for the kind words.
All right. So let's dive into VIP days. And since we're here on LinkedIn Live and not on podcast, I can actually show a visual. So this is the framework that we use when we work with our clients on their signature talk. This is actually the one for my keynote that I'm delivering this coming Saturday. So I did a VIP day for myself because it works really well. And so we have 3 acts that we divided out into, and then the Post-it notes, there's 4 colors and they stand for different things. And so what happens is that in a VIP day, either myself or Diane, we sit with you, the client, and ask you a bunch of questions. And we know what we're asking because we're driving for certain information, certain things that we're looking for. And then we'll pull on threads that we think are super interesting and go deeper there. And then while you're talking, we're writing on the Post-it notes and kind of putting stuff in order based on this 3-act and this journey that we want you to take the audience on. And so then of course, the beauty of the Post-it notes is we can rearrange them as new information and new great things come about. So before though we talk about your specific VIP day experiences, Erin, let me start with you. Why did you want a signature talk in the first place? How do you envision using it?
Yeah, well, for me, I've been practicing law for almost 30 years now, but my evolution with Think Beyond IP is more recent. And so, people knew me, one way, and I really wanted to kind of build some visibility and authority for them to look at me as more of a consultant and a coach, and helping them with strategic transformations in their business. So it was really important to me to work on that thought leadership piece, and of course speaking is one of the primary ways that we do that. And so after talking to Diane, and one of the things that I asked her was, is it too soon, because I'm kind of early in my journey of adding this piece. And she's like, absolutely not. And she was right, because it really helped me kind of clarify some of my thinking around these things. And the way that, we'll talk about the details of how it works, but it really does help kind of flesh out some of the process of thought leadership and how you communicate that. So that was why I did it, even though it was kind of early for me. It really helped me kind of put a framework around some of the things I was thinking about.
Fantastic. And you mentioned framework, so we're going to come back to that, Erin. All right. Casey, what about you? Why did you want a signature talk?
Well, I had spent a lot of my career talking to really big audiences, but I mostly spoke to them about how-tos and sharing educational information. And so when I launched my business, I knew I wanted to build some authority and talk to people about some things that I felt were missing and how businesses are operating today. And I mean, to be honest, I had no idea. I have no idea what kind of cohesive thought I'm putting together here. And so, Carol, that's why I wanted to work with you, because I knew that I'm like the cobbler's kids that can't wear shoes or whatever. So pulling things out of other people comes really easy to me, but pulling things out of myself, I'm a fact finder. So I'm very analytical, and I just think too much, basically.
I'm a fellow fact finder. I cannot tell you how proud I am of myself, of having done this for myself. Really, it's so much easier for me to do it for someone else.
I know exactly what you mean, Carol. When I have to do a talk and I do that for myself, I'm like, shoosh, let me just do this for a client. It's so hard on yourself.
Yeah. All right. So actually, Diane, I'm going to hand it off to you. Yeah. Why don't you and Erin chat about kind of how you approach the VIP day process? And I know that Erin had a framework that she was coming in with as well. So I'll let you two take it from here.
Yes. Okay. Well, I know, Erin, you did come in with a framework, but I remember that when we first chatted, you had quite a long framework.
Yes.
And I know that we kind of whittled it down. So maybe you can talk a little bit about where it started, and then we can kind of chat about how the process went to whittle it down. But talk about your framework and kind of where it started, and we can talk about where it went from there.
Yeah, it evolved, and I think it was all over the place, honestly. But I think when I came to you, it was called Applied, I believe. So it was like 7 steps or something like that. And you really, and it was kind of, I wanted to have like a step-by-step way that I could explain to people, like how I would get you from point A to point B. And part of my issue was, again, like I was starting as a lawyer, and I was trying to get you to this like transformation that people don't typically associate with lawyers. And so I had all the little pieces in there, and like the breadcrumbs basically was what my framework was. And so when we worked together, first of all, you didn't like the Applied, right? And it didn't mean anything. It didn't, and so we kind of really worked out, kind of boiling it down to what the most essential elements were. And also that we would call it something that conveyed the message within the framework and the transformation that I wanted to help take people through. And so where we came to was GIVE. And so nice, sweet GIVE. And it was really about, working with women, and, women entrepreneurs. A lot of times they use what they do in a way that may be different from the way that men do it, that it's more emotional for them. They do it even if it's not a lifestyle business, but they do it so they can work with people that they love, doing things that they love, employees that they love. And when they think about the way that they're going to use their wealth, they want to use it for good and for either for the families, for the communities. And so for, to have give as the framework for them to think about, okay, this is not, we're going to build a business that will help you give more, make more impact. So it was just a nice little package that we wrapped it up in by the time we were done.
Yes. I remember when we were talking, when we first started out and we were chatting about, I was asking you questions about what do you do and what is the process that you take your clients through. And we were going through that whole thing. And you were sharing all that with me and you kind of had that framework. And I was trying to figure out how we could make it, like you said, more related to what you do versus just some word.
Yes.
Yeah. One of the questions I asked you is, what did you want the overall goal of the work of your work to be? Because it's not necessarily about the step 1, step 2, step 3. It's about what the ultimate goal is. Right. So we talked a lot about that, but I also remember after our VIP day, because then we also do a couple of follow-up sessions. Yeah. I was on a walk and I was trying, I told you this, Erin, I said, I'm a word person. Once I start ruminating on what is the word, I can't stop thinking about it. And I will think about it in the shower. I will think about it on a walk. I will think about it before I go to bed. It's in my head. So I was on a walk and I just started on my phone. I'm surprised I didn't trip over something or walk into the back of the parked car because I was on my phone jotting down words that I'm like, oh, this word. And so while I was walking, then emailed you to say, here are some words that might, what do you think of these words? And that is kind of how we arrived at the give framework, because you really latched onto that one, which I love, because it's then you take ownership of that and how that framework feels for you and how it fits with your content.
Yeah. So the slide was a bit tortured, and it was literally, okay, I got these steps and I need some letters to go with it. So it's, and it was, so yes, it really was so helpful.
Yeah.
So Erin, let me ask you this. Were you surprised that you and Diane were able to get the talk done within the 3-hour time frame? Because I'm just curious, like how does it feel when you initially are signing up for VIP days? Is it like, how is this possibly going to happen in 3 hours? Did you just trust the process?
Yeah. I mean, you have to trust the process, right? I mean, I knew about you because I heard you, Carol, on the podcast before, and it was years ago, honestly. It took a while for me to get to, signing up with you guys. And I knew that, okay, this process makes sense to me. Like it really made sense to me. And, the board, I think I even heard you on a podcast. So I didn't see the board, but I knew about the board and about the stickies. So yeah, it really is about trusting the process, seeing who you've worked with before, the results that you've gotten. And when for me, like having a VIP day, to have that focused time was super important for me. There are other ways to learn, but for me to have that kind of really focused time to dig in, and stay right with it was very valuable for me. So.
Great. And Casey, I'm going to come over to you now. And I'm going to remind everyone who's watching live or on the replay, say hi in the comments, let us know that you're here, and also post your questions for us as we're going along. Casey, so what about you? Talk about your VIP day experience. I was looking back in my notes and we did this almost 2 years ago, October of 2019.
Yeah.
And so before COVID. So obviously with the idea of using this, I'm sure, for in-person speaking engagements primarily. So how did you feel going into the VIP day? And tell us a little bit about what we ended up focusing on, and how the experience felt for you.
Well, I was really excited to go into the VIP day because I always look, I think Erin mentioned something similar, where we just don't take the time to sit and do that thinking about our own business. So not only was I actually going to accomplish creating this talk that I wanted to create, but I was also going to spend a lot of really thoughtful time thinking about what's important and what people will find interesting and what they want to know about. And so, Carol, your process of the asking of the questions, I couldn't have done it without that, because I just, I'm very linear, right? And so I could have sat down and created something and it would have been like step 1, step 2, step 3. But the process that you took me through was really about telling a story and making it interesting and incorporating examples. And that's really what the VIP day added so much flavor to anything that I could have created on my own.
Fantastic. And I was looking back at the photos. So what happens is that obviously we're doing this on Zoom with our clients. And so once we're done with the board, we take photos of it and then we upload them to the shared Google Drive folder. And then what you all do is then you take that and put it into an outline, transcribe it into an outline. So Casey, I'm looking back at the photo of it and we have, so your framework, your acronym was EASY. That's what, and I don't remember if you had come to our VIP day with that already.
No, I had no framework. And in fact, Carol, you had to even help lead me to, what do you even want to talk about? And like, what's something, because like I said, I just have this, I'm a very big picture person. So I'm like, well, Carol, I have like 6 million things that I can talk about. And so this process really helped me narrow it down to something that was unique and different about the way I talk about what I do, the way I work with clients, the way we approach business. And it ended up coming out to the customer journey that I use and how an entire business, well, and I actually, you know what, after we worked together, I did create a separate framework. But so there's 2 things in the business that I focus on almost exclusively. And the first is the vision of the business. But I mean, we all know about that. And the customer journey. So the customer journey really is something that informs almost everything that you do in the business. Because if you don't have a customer, you don't have a business. And so we talked about the easy button and how that customer journey was an integral part of making business easy. And so then, of course, the acronym went on to define, the experience of the customer, the aligning of the goals, the story that we tell about the customer, and then about how the businesses aren't making it about. It's not about you. It's about the customer. So
love it. Yes. All right. So let us go to, let's see, Holly has a question. She says, how much longer did it take to draft your outline and slide deck? So once we had the board done, how long did it take for you then to take this and put it into the outline and then from the outline into slides? And did you have design support for the slides? So Erin, I'll come to you first. Once you had the photo of your board and then you had to put in the outline, how long do you think you spent on that?
Well, to make the outline, I mean, it's very comprehensive when you have the sticky notes. So I want to say I transcribed it in not more than a couple of hours, mostly because I had, there's some places to fill in, like add a story. So I had to think about like what the story was going to be. And there's some places where I just didn't have coming into it. I just had some blanks that I needed to fill in. So it could have been a little more than that, but not much more than that. And I have not done a keynote speaking gig. So I've not done a slide deck with it. I have done a number of podcasts and I've done some webinars, but so when I do slide decks, I do get help, though. I will say that.
That's always a good idea. Yeah. And I'll say I have found that mostly for lead generation presentations, whether they're in person or virtual, so webinars and then in-person lead generation, like conference breakout sessions, I will use slides. For keynotes, I tend not to use slides unless there's something like I really need to convey in an image or something or a video clip. Like for the keynote that I'm doing this Saturday, there's no slides. It also just makes it so much easier not to have to worry about that. Casey, what about you? How long do you think you spent once you had the board to do the outline? And then what do you do with your slides, or how did you approach creating your slides?
Well, the work we did was so long ago. I was trying to remember, like, gosh, how long did that take me? But so I'm gonna do my best to try to remember. But actually, writing comes really easy to me. So I know that it didn't take me more than 1 to 2 hours. Because Carol, once you got me started, I was just like on a roll, and I was like typing. But so it didn't take me very long to fill out the outline. And in terms of a presentation, I don't love a lot of slides. And so my slide deck is very simple. I just use it as a visual interest kind of thing. And so I also, in case anyone's interested, I use a service called beautiful.ai for creating slides. And it's like a drag and drop builder for presentations. And it looks beautiful and it's very pretty, and there's a free option and a paid option. And so I've been using that to do presentations, and it saves me a ton of time.
Oh, good to know. Beautiful.ai. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
I like that. All right, great. So let's now kind of segue into VIP days in general. And, and so for those of you watching, if you have questions about VIP days, pop them into the chat. If you offer VIP days in your business right now, let us know in the chat what it is around the VIP day, what the offer is. And if you've been thinking about it but haven't been sure, also let us know that in the chat. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we really like VIP days because it obviously provides a lot of clarity for you, the client, who's coming in with, you're far from alone, a whole swirl of ideas and content and stories and client examples. And it's like, which ones do I pick? Which are the most impactful? Which makes the most sense? Which topic should I talk about? Which should be my key points? How do I add audience engagement, right? Like all of those things swirling around. Hence, that's why we're your sounding board, literally, to put all that together. But also we find it provides a lot of momentum. And when I first started speaking your brand, and when work with clients, I like to say that I knew how to create presentations for myself. So then I started the business and had to figure out how to create presentations with other people, not for them, but actually with them. Mm-hmm. And so initially we would spend like 6 or 8 sessions on Zoom together, and I would have Google Doc and like be writing, asking questions, typing, right, and moving stuff around. And then it was with Tammy Lally, who went on, her TEDx talk has now gone on to over 2 million views. She was the first person I did this process with. So she was kind of like my beta client to do this with. And once we did it this way, I was like, oh, this is the methodology. This is what makes sense. And so now I probably have done it, 100 times at least. And so it provides so much clarity, provides so much momentum in those quick wins, and then kind of gets you like off to your next thing. So Erin, let me come to you. Do you offer like any type of VIP day service in your business, or have you, if you don't right now, have you considered it?
Yes, I am considering it where I am, because, a day I can't do, but an intensive, like I can do. And so the first step in my process is an inventory. And so that includes, the kind of a form that the client fills out that does, helps me kind of understand the background of the company, and a preliminary inventory of their assets to the extent that the way they look at assets. And then we work together to kind of refine that, find out more about it. And then I go back and kind of come back with my overall assessment of the assets in their business, which ones have the most value, and what the next steps would be to make sure we're protecting them so that we can maximize the value in their business. And so right now it's not so tight as that I could call it a VIP day. I think I can call it an intensive, but it will get there. That is where it's heading after I get, a dozen of them under my belt to make sure I kind of go, okay, this is, that's definitely where it's heading now for sure. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. And Casey, what about you? VIP days in your business?
Yeah, so I call them CEO days, and they're very similar to what you do, Carol. So a lot of the consulting or the work that I do, if you're not a retainer client of mine, you're either going to be doing an advisory call with me or a CEO day with me. And if you're someone who spent any time in corporate, you will resonate with the fact that when you're in corporate, you spend a lot of time in meetings. And as annoying as they can be, a lot of work gets done in meetings because you're collaborating, you're making decisions, you're mapping things out, you're testing ideas, and you're getting feedback. And so during our CEO day, that's exactly what that's exactly what we're doing. And I started out very similarly to you, Carol. So I have something called a business blueprint, which is basically a business strategy on steroids. So if you think about a startup where you've got some bullet points about who your target audience is and what your vision and mission is, and we turn that into something incredibly powerful to really impact the decisions that you make for your team. So I used to do that over 6 to 8 sessions. And what we found, the reason I did it that way was because Zoom fatigue is real. And I thought, after you spent an hour on the phone, your attention span is kind of wandering, you're getting tired. But I actually found that it was better because if you break it out over 8 sessions, it takes a heck of a long time to get to the end result. And who has time to wait 8 weeks for a business strategy? And the other thing we found is once you stop and start, you have to get back into the frame of mind all over again. So in fact, we were, by turning it into a 3-hour time together, and we take breaks, like we have bio breaks and a snack break, whatever. But in that 3-hour time, we were able to stay really focused and, you get your end product within a week instead of waiting the 8 weeks to the end of the session.
Yes, great point, Casey. True, about getting it so much quicker than you otherwise would, and keeping that focus versus every week you're starting again and you're like, oh, where do we leave off and what are we working on next? And then, I remembered one other detail about how actually the VIP days came about. So I mentioned that the board process came from working with Tammy Lally, but that took us a long time. Like we spent many sessions together to really hone her TEDx talk. So here's what happened though. I think it was later that fall, that year, 2017. So I got a new client. So we were talking on the Zoom consult call, and she had a speaking engagement coming up that weekend. And I think it was like a Tuesday that we were talking, and her speech was on a Saturday. And so I was like, okay, well, doing 6 sessions is probably not going to be the answer here. So I ended up, so I was like, okay, let's try it. Let's do 3 hours on Zoom this Friday, and we'll go through the board and see where we get. And we did it. And now I remember, that's where the VIP day was. It was like, this is like the mother of invention, or like the value of constraints. When you're forced to do something in a shorter period, you never know what comes out of it. So for those of you who are watching and listening, you may not think you could do your process, your service in a shorter amount of time, but give yourself that constraint and see what happens. You might be surprised.
Yeah.
Carol, that's one of the things also that I like about the VIP days for us, at least, and I'm sure this was true for other providers as well, is that, you do get a quick resolution. So in this case, you work on your talk, you have a framework, hopefully, and then also you've got your talk, and then you can immediately go deliver it somewhere. And even if it's not, like Erin said, she hasn't done a formalized speaking engagement, she's done podcast interviews, you're immediately using the work that you did to hone and whittle down those ideas. You're immediately putting those out there and you're able to get feedback. Whereas if you did multiple sessions, right, it takes a lot longer to be able to see like, oh, does this work? But with the VIP day, you've got it. You've got the clarity. You can go out and start using that clarity and find out how your audience responds and then iterate from there. So I like the ability to sort of get your idea, your talk, your podcast information, whatever, out there very quickly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And it really does such a great foundation. We've had clients use their board for email sequences.
Yes.
And once they have their outline, they'll take pieces and use for email sequences, for social media content. Yeah. Workshops, webinars. So that's really why we like it. Like we can expand and contract the content and the amount of time based on what you need to use it for. So Casey, what are some different ways you've used the material from your talk?
I was just going to say, we mentioned my podcast, and when I'm thinking all of the ways I can pull out little portions of the talk that I worked on, they're whole episodes in themselves. And so I can probably have 35 episodes of podcast content that I can use. And in addition to that, we've made portions of my talk into a product so that it's a template that you can purchase, or it's a CEO day or an advisory session that you can book with us to work through a specific resource that I've mentioned in the talk.
Nice.
Oh, I love to hear that. And what about you, Erin?
It's amazing. Yeah. I use it as a foundation for all the interviews that I've done. I've done a number of them this year. And I even use them in my one-on-one conversations. Part of kind of, my process this year has been lots of one-on-ones with people, and to talk about getting that feedback. Every conversation informs it and makes it a little bit better. And so it has been invaluable for kind of always making sure, Diane, one of the things, I'm like, well, I just got the podcast. What do I do? She's like, you make sure you have those 3 points that you want to make sure that you get across. And I'm like, I guess I got my 3 points.
Yes.
And that's important both in the podcast interviews and in, having networking conversations with people as well. So it's been great for that.
That's fantastic. It really does have a long shelf life.
Yes.
And the way, and even if you may decide, oh, I want to go a different direction with my content or my topic, what I tell people, just change out act 2, like your middle content, and kind of adjust your questions, maybe on act 1 and act 3, but really like why you do what you do and your credibility in act 1, and then act 3, like the next steps kind of stays similar. And then you just switch out the middle part as needed. All right. So let me mention to all of you who are watching and listening that our Thought Leader Academy is now open for enrollment the month of September. And so we are taking applications right now. You can get all the details and you can submit your application at speakingyourbrand.com/academy. Again, that's speakingyourbrand.com/academy. There's different tiers that you can join at. And so the first tier is the Academy. So you get all of the group calls, you get 2 one-on-one coaching calls with Diane to talk about your thought leadership message and your topic and your signature talk and your visibility and revenue plan. So you get all of the group calls that last for 4 months. And then in tier 2, you get all of that plus a VIP day with Diane to work on your talk so that you have your very own board with all the post-it notes on it. And then tier 3 is all the Academy plus a VIP day with me so that we'll work together one-on-one on that, because we have really found that having that one-on-one time in the VIP day really does accelerate your results. And so you get trained on how to do it yourself in the Thought Leader Academy. But if you want that one-on-one help from us to do it, we are happy to do that. So you can get all the details about the Academy at speakingyourbrand.com/academy. Submit your application form, because then what we'll do is we'll read it over and schedule a Zoom consult call with you to talk about your goals and answer the questions you have about the Academy and make sure it's the great fit for you. I am so excited about the women who have joined already. We are almost halfway full, and we still have 3 weeks of enrollment left. So I have a feeling we're not gonna be full before that time comes.
Yes.
Casey, Erin, let the watchers and listeners know where they can find you and learn more about you. Erin?
You can find me. I hang out on LinkedIn mostly, and I've been on there so long. I'm the original Erin Austin. Erin Austin, and then also my website is thinkbeyondip.com.
Fantastic. And Casey?
Yes, I also like to hang out on LinkedIn. So if we are not already connected, I would welcome an invitation from you to connect. And also, please come over and check out the podcast at Female Founders Breaking Boundaries. And I really want to encourage listener participation there. So when I'm done with my deep thoughts section at the end, if you want to send me a message and, kind of continue that conversation, please do that. I am at she-sweetboutique.com if you want to find out more about how we might work together.
Fantastic. Casey, Erin, Diane, thank you so much for coming on Backstage with Speaking Your Brand, our live show that happens every other Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Pacific, right here on LinkedIn. Hi, Rebecca Arbona. So nice to see you. And Rebecca says hi to you, Casey.
Hi, Rebecca.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.